Hello everybody, and thank you for joining us today. So today for our Veritas Data Insight webinar, we will be joined by Jaap from Veritas and Mark from Byte Software Services.
Thanks, Sarah, and good morning, everybody. As Sarah said, my name is Mark Palmer, and I'm one of the Symantec and Veritas specialists here at Bytes. I'd like to start by thanking you all for taking the time out of your no doubt busy schedules to join us today on this Data Insight focused webinar, and hope you will find it useful. Now, before I pass over to Jaap to dive into the Data Insight offering, I'd like to touch very briefly on the Bytes and Symantec Veritas relationship and where Bytes sit. So Bytes are a platinum partner with around 15 years of experience working with Symantec and Veritas. We have a dedicated in-house product and licensing team that contain software licensing specialists such as myself and sit alongside a technical team that work with customers to scope projects, perform the implementation of Symantec and Veritas products, run health checks and offer managed services to suit specific requirements. Now I'd like to pass you over to Jaap to discuss the Data Insight technology. Thank you.
Good morning all. I hope you can hear me all well. My name is Jaap den Exter van den Brink. I'm based in the Netherlands, but I'm responsible for the EMEA wide information intelligence product set, of which Data Insight is one of the products. My background goes roughly to 2002 with this product set. When I started with the archiving product KVS with Enterprise Vault. From that we were acquired, and I'm now looking after all the information intelligence products, and I will show you which one they are later on. So I really thank you for taking the time to listen to this, in my view, really important part of managing information. It's the Data Insight. And for that we have a product which is called also Data Insight. But first of all, I would like to share with you the mission we have as Veritas, the new company which will be on its own January next year, so 2016. The vision we have is to be enabling organizations to harness the power of information regardless of where it resides by driving availability and revealing insights. So for that we divided kind of the company in two areas: information availability, which you probably know, the products backup, net backup, backup exec, information availability products like the storage foundation and clustering software. That's all in the availability area. And then in the information insight we have other products like Data Insight, but also the archiving technology, Enterprise Vault, some new products, information map, which will be out very soon, but also e-discovery products. So what are we looking at the moment? It's all about the information management challenge. We all know the situation right now where you see the information growth and the fact that we are able to keep up with the data growth by managing it in a correct way and know what we can delete and what we can't delete. And that's a challenge that a lot of people have a fear of deletion, because you don't know who's using the data, you don't know where it's for. It could be that it even, if you keep the information too long, could give you problems with compliancy and risks. And then at the end, we get more and more questions from customers where they have to go through this data, either for their internal compliancy needs, or they are asked by one of the regulators in the market to provide data. And then the more data you have, the more you need to search, and also the risk that you are keeping data which you shouldn't have kept anymore. So we have some instances in this whole LIBOR crisis or LIBOR problems in the past, where we know from some banks that they kept too much data, and based on the fact that they had this really old data still in their systems, that they got a bigger fine than they normally could get. So it's really important to manage your information. So not only your data, but manage the information which is in the data in a more efficient way. And that's what we can help with. So the problem with data growth is a bit like this. We just keep too much, and we want to keep everything. And another problem is that our infrastructure is not coping with the load it needs to take. So that is the area where we are looking into. So we want to gain control over the information. And from all kinds of analysts, we know that a lot of the information is not used by the people anymore in your company, doesn't have value anymore. What we know from analysts is that roughly 60% of the data is not used at all. So it's spinning there on your infrastructure, taking up resources, taking up management costs, but nobody is using it anymore. The only challenge is, what do I need to do with it? So do I need to archive it? Do I need to delete it? That's a discussion, and from an IT perspective, it's a discussion we can't do. We need the business with it, and we need to provide the business with information on what kind of decisions we can help them with to make, to do the correct things with the data. And that's where we come with our vision for information insight. It's all about knowing what you have, and based on the fact that you know what you have, you can leverage what you know about that data. So you can see who's using it, where it's used, how often, all that kind of things. And then at the end, make a better decision on what you do with the data. Not just let it keep on spinning on your systems and consuming your resources, but really manage that information. And if you know what you have and you have a better visibility of what's out there, you can also see which gaps you are. For instance, are there open shares? Are there files which are still out there which are owned by people who already left the company for a long time? So what should you do with that? Then you can create actions and policies to implement, to do certain things on this. So, for instance, check every month, every 2 months for the correctness of your security using the share permission and the folder permissions. And then at the end, you will have more control and improve your data and risk management. So you can prove to your management that the data is protected in a correct way, and only people who need access have access to it. And that are the things we can manage with our Data Insight product. So what is Data Insight? Data Insight is a product which is installed, and it does a couple of things. So the first thing, sorry, it explores your environment. So what it does, it looks at the data, looks at the files, looks at all the available information which is on your file systems, things like names, like sizes, like last owner or last accessed, last change times, creation time, the owner of the file, all that kind of information, and calculates or captures that and stores it in a big database. But it also is able to listen to events. So it can listen to read, write, update events, but also security events and all that kind of things. And all that information then is collected and analyzed. And then based on this analysis, you can do remediation. So you can see that certain users who are not part of a department anymore still have access, for instance, to that data because they were part of that department in the past, but moved on in the company, but still have access to those shares. And should they have that? All that kind of information. If you look at a normal file system in a company, 90% of the files will be owned by the system administrator. And the process who is last accessed it is quite often a backup process or a virus scanner. So that's information which doesn't say anything to you if you just look at the static information. But if you record the events of the data, you can see who is actually using the files, who is actually using the data either for reading or for updating or writing. And you can track that and then create what we call a divert owner, because based on the fact that somebody is accessing the data every day several times, that might be more the owner than the person who created the data. So that is all kinds of information you can get from the system. And the benefits you get as a company from this is that you get way more better visibility and understanding of how your data is used. And it's just not spinning there as a big black box and you are doing your backup and availability management actions on it, but you can keep it and manage it more efficient. You can make decisions about data which isn't used for a long period of time. You can automatically let it archive into Enterprise Vault, the archiving solution Veritas is also selling, and move the data to a place where it can be kept as long as it needs according to retention policies. But you can also remediate risk because we check all those access controls. We give you a kind of guidance on what you could change to get it fixed. And then the people who are responsible for the security management can have a look to our advice and then say, yes, we will do that, and you can remove that liability. So if we look at data insight, where it's used most often, the first part is the improved data management, and I will go deeper on this. Also compliancy and data protection and risk mediation. So if we look at improved data management, it's the way that you manage your data and you get more insight in who is using the data, where the data is, if it's still used, who is using the data, and you can see make all kinds of assumptions about the growth of your data, because we now have an historical view on what data is created when. And there are some very interesting things we see happening in customers where they are using this. So first of all, you can make users more focused and more aware of the fact that they keep data, and there is a cost for the business on this. So you can kind of introduce a chargeback, or doesn't need to be a really chargeback, but you can give users or departments a vision, a view of what is happening with their data, how much do they have, how fast is it growing, and all that kind of things. And by doing that, make people aware of what they are creating and not just say save, save, save. And we have interesting numbers from customers where after the summer period, they see a huge growth of data on their systems. And when they had a look with Data Insight, it turned out that a lot of those extra storage needs were consumed by people who came back from holiday, connected their mobile devices to their systems and synchronized. And guess what? A lot of their holiday pictures were on the system, and they are now on the company system. And you as an IT organization then are managing this, and the whole company is in fact paying for this, which in fact shouldn't be the case. Another thing is you can eliminate orphan data. A lot of companies have problems with identifying the data from users who left the company for a long period of time. And the challenge then is to figure out, is this data really not used anymore? Is it from a user who left the organization? So what should I do with it? Should I delete it? Should I archive it for a certain period of time? All that kind of things you now can make better decisions on because of the fact you have the insight. And also, like I said, the data growth, you get a better insight in which areas the data is growing, how is it used, and manage your infrastructure better for that. For instance, if you see certain file servers growing fast, but they don't have a lot of I/O to check to the data or reading data, then it might be that you can archive a lot of data from that file servers and release resources there. The second part is archiving or achieving compliance. And that's a big word, compliance always, but it's more or less meaning that you are achieving and following the rules either within your organization or rules you need to do from any kind of certification, for instance, ISO 2011 or 2001, that kind of things, or if you are in a financial area, if you need to show that you are doing certain procedures correctly, that you don't have traders talking to buyers, and you have Chinese walls. That's all possible with the tool, because you now have an insight not only on how the data is used, but also where and who has access. So you can easily identify who the owner is, and if the owner is a person who doesn't need that ownership anymore, you can change that. You can protect the data more efficient. You also can monitor and put alerts on how the data is used. For instance, if you see on a certain folder the normal average access is around 10 or 20 times a day, if you then all of a sudden see a peak about 200 times, then it could be that somebody is copying data from that area because he's planning to leave the organization and takes data with him. All that kind of things. And again, the protection of open shares and permissions. And you can check if they are efficient and according to how it should be within your organization. And then at the last, it's all about the protection of the data and the security risks. And this is brought into attention, especially after the Shodan case, where he took a lot of information because he just had access to it. That kind of things you could protect with Data Insight. Because we can have a look at open shares, unauthorized access, policy violations, that kind of things. It's all monitoring who is accessing, what is accessing. But you can also see certain patterns in if people are, like I said, just accessing data once a week and all of a sudden they enter it every day. It could be a difference. It could be that something has happened in the organization. You also can have more insight in user behavior, and based on that you can have more ways to monitor the use of your system. For instance, we had a customer where they had performance issues with their system, normally in the morning. And when they put in this Data Insight technology, they saw after a couple of weeks, they saw what happened. And they figured out that one person in the organization was kind of scanning all the file systems in the morning. And it turned out that that person, by mistake, switched on the Windows indexing on the network drives the person was connected to. And then they disabled this, and the whole performance issue in the morning was gone. So that are the things they normally couldn't easily figure out who that person was. But with the auditing functionality in Data Insight, they were able to trace this back. And also the fact that you can define which areas are your crown jewels of the company, like design documents or legal documents, and you can really check that the system is locked down correctly at that areas and control this. So with the newest version, which is 5.0, which is available from the beginning of August, we extended some access intelligence. So we are now creating some risk values from the environment so that you can easily see where the most interesting points are to check out. We also have some user behavior intelligence in it so that you can easily see where the points of interests are, and you don't need to look for that or search for that yourself. And we have extended the tool to also be able to look at cloud storage, and we start with the box storage so that you can also have a view in that area. Now, to give you an insight of how it could look, this is a dashboard from Data Insight from one of our demo systems. And what you see in the slightly right of the middle, you see the risk number. And this is a number we calculate based on some analytics in the system. And it gives you an insight on where the most interesting or abnormal numbers are. And you can have a look into if this is, maybe it could be valid that they are so high, but it could also be an indication that something is wrong. So for instance, if you look at Yusang Livian, he has 81 points of risks. So if you then have a look at the right side of the screen, you will see why there are risks in there. So it looks like there are 4 alerts for this person, and there are 5 out-of-band activities. So you can then zoom into this area, this point, and check what's happening there, why this is happening. Sorry. Some other points is this 2 slides, or this 2 views. The left one is the number of file accesses, and you can see that most users are very slow on the number of file access, but you have 1 or 2 users who are really peaking out there, and you can check then why that happens, and why these users are doing this kind of thing. And this is one of the pictures which helped the customer to figure out this person who was doing the scanning on the whole file servers. Another part to the right is the unique write and read actions on files. And you see this big chunk in the middle, which are the normal behavior users. But the ones at the yellow circle and the blue circle, those are the interests ones to look at. So why are those users in the yellow circle accessing data more than other ones? Why are they creating more updates to files? And in the blue second circles, why are they reading those files more often than others? So that are areas where you can investigate and have a look what's going on, and make a nice assumption from it. So to give you an idea what the product is doing, we have a customer case where we had a customer who, for compliant needs from their organization, their governmental regulatory body, they needed to have a vision on who is accessing and who is using which data. And they had no visibility in their area. They had a couple of file servers, and they had permission rights on that, they thought set up correctly, but they couldn't report anything for the compliancy bodies to check. So what we did is we implemented Data Insight. We hooked it up to this 4 file servers this customer has, and now we are able to monitor and show, using reports and auditing, that the access to the file servers is correctly, that people who shouldn't have access are really not allowed to have access, and people who have it in the correct way. And we also have implemented some archiving policies so that really old data is now stored in an archive, accessible by the correct people. So this customer now is compliant for their business. They can have their external regulatory body coming by and do an audit check without any problems. So I hope this gave you a bit of an overview what the product could do, and to help you get a bit of more taste what it could do within your organization, we have created what we call a dark data assessment. Now what this is it's kind of a high level, quick and dirty check of your environment. So what we will do is work with Bytes. So you can talk to your Bytes account manager, and they will help you to get this data assessment done. What it will do a scanning of your environment, and based on that scanning, it will be creating a six reports, which gives you an insight in what your data is, what we have seen, what we were seeing within the product. It's not using the listening mode, because for that we need to install an agent on your system. This assessment only needs a user who is allowed to read the data, and we can set it up that way. What we do is we have a virtual machine, so it can run on your hardware. You can delete it afterwards, so there is no risk of us taking information with us. So we come in, set up the system, configure it, do the scan, which normally takes depending on the size of the environment, but not longer than a day, maybe a day and a half. And then after that, run the reports and discuss the reports with you. And then you have a feeling what in the first instance the product already can do to help you. And then on top of that, if you would have the whole fully licensed product, you can do the listening and the auditing and all that kind of things, and you get even more functionality from the product and more benefit from the product. So again, if you want to do this kind of things, contact your Bytes account manager for this. Now, at the end, I would like to tell you a bit about the whole portfolio with the Information Insight area. So we have Data Insight, which is creating the storage optimization and the visibility and helps you define what you want to do with your data and make it less dark data, but give you insight in it. Then we have retention and lifecycle management software, Enterprise Vault on-premise and Enterprise Vault in the cloud, which allows you to have a central repository to store information in there and have a classification, have a storage saving by compression and single instance. And then at the end we have an e-discovery platform, also called Clearwell, which enables you to search through this in a very structured way in case you have any kind of internal or external need to look through the data and manage your data. So that's my part, and I would like to open it up for questions.
We have had one come through that asks, how is Data Insight licensed, and do you have to cover your whole environment?
Okay, Data Insight is licensed really flexible, so you can have two, or in fact three licensing models. The first one is based on the terabytes the product is looking at. So for instance, the total amount of terabytes on your file system. You can also license it based on the users, the user count who has access to the file systems, to the data. So depending on which is the cheapest for you or which is the most easy to manage, you can pick both. And then at the third time, for both options, we also have a subscription model by which you pay a subscription fee. But for that one, the minimum subscription is a year. So it's not that you can do it for a month and then have all the benefits and then say, thank you, Veritas, Symantec and Bytes. We will move on. So there are these are the three options.
Lovely, thank you very much. So if we'll just give it a couple of seconds just in case anybody else does have any other questions. Oh, we've had another one come in that asks, would the dark data assessment be best performed across the data estate, so breadth or depth in a particular area?
Okay, the dark data assessment, like I said, it's kind of a very easy way to give a high-level view of what's happening. Our dark data assessment at the moment is only allowing to do a scan on one of the Windows file systems. If you want to do a more in-depth analysis, then talk to your Bytes account manager to see how we can extend that. But the initial view of a dark data assessment is one file server.
Okay, great, thank you. So that looks like that's all the questions that we've had for today. So thank you everybody for joining, and thank you very much to Jaap and Mark for presenting for us today.